The nation is still bracing for a memorial that has yet to unfold. A memorial expected to draw tens of thousands, guarded like a state funeral and watched by millions across the globe. Charlie Kirk's assassination left a movement without its figurehead, and his widow, Erika Kirk, has been thrust into a role she never asked for: CEO, mother, and now the public face of his legacy. But behind the stage lights and speeches lies a darker reality. When one leader falls, the question becomes not only who will rise, but who might be targeted next. As the world turns its eyes to Arizona, we ask, is Erika Kirk stepping into a tribute or stepping into a storm? What do you think? Is the case moving forward carefully, or is progress being slowed by procedural delays? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and where are you watching from? To stay updated on every development, subscribe now and turn on notifications, so you stay informed as new updates become available. This is Detective Max, and together we will stay on top of the facts. Charlie Kirk was gunned down in a moment that changed the trajectory of American conservatism. The shock was immediate, and the fallout continues to ripple across politics, media, and culture. Now, a massive memorial is planned at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona, an arena capable of holding more than 60,000 people, with overflow arrangements already in place. National figures are scheduled to attend: President Donald Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and other top voices of the movement. The Department of Homeland Security has classified the event at its highest level of security, a designation usually reserved for presidential inaugurations and major global summits. Amid this storm stands Erika Kirk. Once known primarily as Charlie's wife and a mother to their two young children, she now finds herself elevated into the role of CEO of Turning Point USA, the organization her husband built. It is a transformation born not of ambition, but of tragedy, one that forces her to navigate both personal grief and public expectation at the same time. She has become not just a widow, but the new face of a movement suddenly forced to decide what its future will be without the man who founded it. Why does this moment matter so much? It's not just a memorial, it's not just a stage filled with speeches. It is a test for a movement, for a family, and for a country watching closely. History has shown us that when public figures are struck down, those who stand closest to them often become the new focal point. They inherit not only the responsibilities, but also the risks. Erika Kirk now carries the weight of her husband's legacy, while facing a world that sees her through the lens of power, grief, and vulnerability. The memorial itself will be one of the largest political gatherings of the year. Tens of thousands are expected to fill the stadium, while millions more will watch from home. The scale is unprecedented for a figure outside of elected office. That scale creates symbolism. This is not just a farewell, it is a rallying point. Supporters see it as a chance to honor Kirk's vision. Critics view it as a flashpoint in America's deep political divide. And for security officials, it represents a nightmare scenario: a massive crowd, a grieving widow elevated to leadership, and a nation still raw from the violence that sparked it all. This is why the story matters. Because it is no longer about one man's death. It is about how his absence reshapes the lives of those closest to him, and how the public spotlight can turn mourning into something far more dangerous. Security around the upcoming memorial has been described as one of the most intense ever organized for a private citizen. State Farm Stadium has been placed under a SEER Level 1 classification, the highest security tier in the United States. This is the same level assigned to presidential inaugurations and major international summits. That means the U.S. Secret Service, the Department of Homeland Security, and multiple local law enforcement agencies are all working together to secure the event. Every detail has been tightened. A no-bag policy is in place. Metal detectors, explosive sniffing dogs, and credential checkpoints will guard every entry point. Surveillance drones and tactical units will be on standby. Officials know that an event of this magnitude, filled with political figures and live broadcasts, is a potential target for disruption. And already, there has been a troubling incident. Days before the memorial, authorities confirmed the arrest of a man found near the stadium, carrying a firearm and a knife, along with expired credentials. He told police he was providing security for a guest but had no legitimate authorization. This arrest only heightened concerns and reminded the public of how difficult it is to manage crowds of this scale when emotions are already running high. The message from law enforcement has been clear: that a memorial is not only a gathering of remembrance, it is a high-risk security operation. And at the center of it all will be Erika Kirk, stepping into the stadium not just as a widow, but as a figure now carrying the hopes of her husband's movement under the sharpest spotlight imaginable. The arrest near the stadium was not the first sign of trouble. In the weeks following Charlie Kirk's assassination, a timeline of red flags has quietly emerged. Each one on its own might seem isolated. Together they paint a picture of rising concern. Shortly after the shooting, law enforcement began monitoring an uptick in online chatter, heated rhetoric, threats of retaliation, and vague posts that hinted at targeting public gatherings. Officials have not disclosed the details of every investigation, but they have confirmed that multiple threat assessments were opened in the days that followed. Then came the arrest: a man with expired credentials, carrying both a firearm and a knife, found near the very stadium where tens of thousands will soon gather. His explanation, that he was providing security for a guest, only raised more questions about how easily an unauthorized individual could get so close to the perimeter. Meanwhile, security planners have been racing against time. The Department of Homeland Security elevated the memorial's classification to its highest threat preparation tier, citing the scale of the event and the high-profile guest list. Each of these developments adds weight to the same question: if breaches and warning signs are appearing before the memorial even begins, what could happen once the stadium is full and the cameras are rolling? These are not hypothetical concerns. They are a reminder of how fragile public safety becomes when emotion, politics, and grief converge on the same stage. Security experts use a phrase that sounds simple, but it carries deep weight: the unnoticed individual. At large-scale events, the greatest risk is not always the loudest protester or the most obvious agitator. It is the person who blends in, the one who looks like they belong, until it is too late. In the case of the Charlie Kirk Memorial, the risk of an unnoticed individual is especially high. Tens of thousands of people are expected to enter the stadium. They will pass through scanners and checkpoints, yes, but in crowds of that size, even a single lapse, a single forged credential, or a single overlooked bag could create a vulnerability. Law enforcement understands this. It is why the event has been elevated to the strictest security level. It is why Secret Service, DHS, and local police are all working in coordination. But even with the best technology and manpower, no system is perfect. History has shown us that breaches often come from where officials least expect them, from insiders, contractors, or individuals who quietly exploit routine procedures. The phrase "unnoticed individual" is not just a description, it is a warning. It reminds us that the greatest danger at a memorial of this scale may not come from an obvious attacker, but from the face in the crowd that nobody stopped to question. And for Erika Kirk, the grieving widow now thrust onto the center stage, it is a reminder of just how precarious her position has become. In any high-profile case, the word confession carries enormous weight. It is often seen as the final piece of the puzzle, the moment when uncertainty gives way to clarity. But history has also shown us that not all confessions are the same, and not all of them can be trusted. In the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, law enforcement has been cautious with what information they release. Some statements have surfaced, claims from individuals that they knew more, or that they were involved in ways not yet proven. To the public, these sound like shocking confessions. But investigators understand the danger. Some people seek attention, others try to shift blame, and a few may even confess under pressure without evidence to support their words. This is why verified details matter. A confession on its own is not enough. It must be tested against physical evidence, timelines, and witness accounts. Without that verification, it is simply noise. What makes this moment so important is not just whether a confession exists, but how it is handled. A true confession could reshape the investigation, expose networks, and reveal whether Erika Kirk herself faces continuing danger. A false confession, on the other hand, could distract from real threats and waste valuable time. In this environment, with a widow elevated to leadership, a memorial drawing national attention, and tensions running high, the question becomes, what do we believe, and what must we challenge? Because in cases like this, a shocking confession is only the beginning of the truth. Erika Kirk never sought the spotlight. For years she was known primarily as Charlie Kirk's wife, the mother of their 2 children, and an advocate for faith and family values in quieter circles. She co-hosted podcasts, supported charitable work, and built a reputation as someone who preferred to stand beside her husband rather than in front of him. But that changed overnight. With Charlie gone, Erika was named the new CEO of Turning Point USA, the very organization her husband built into a national powerhouse. In an instant, she moved from a private partner to a public leader, responsible not just for managing grief, but for steering a movement with millions of followers and enormous political influence. For Erika, the memorial is more than a farewell. It is her first appearance as both widow and leader, 2 roles that do not easily coexist. Every word she speaks, every gesture she makes, will be parsed not only as an expression of grief, but as a signal of how Turning Point USA will move forward under her guidance. As the memorial approaches, investigators face a set of difficult questions. The murder of Charlie Kirk was not just a random act of violence, it was a public assassination with political consequences. And yet, there are still gaps in what the public knows, and even in what law enforcement has confirmed. Key details remain unclear. How extensive was the planning behind the attack? Was the shooter acting alone, or was there support from individuals who remain in the shadows? What level of threat assessment has been conducted for Erika Kirk, now that she has stepped into such a visible role? The gaps go further. Surveillance footage, eyewitness accounts, and digital evidence are all pieces of the investigation, but so far, much of this material has not been released. Officials argue that withholding information protects the integrity of the case. But to a public already shaken by violence, silence feels like vulnerability. This uncertainty places enormous weight on the memorial itself. With thousands expected at State Farm Stadium, including national political leaders and ordinary citizens, security is not just about crowd control. It is about preventing history from repeating itself. Every unaddressed gap, every unanswered question, feeds the sense that another tragedy could still be possible. And at the center of this storm stands Erika Kirk, grieving widow, newly appointed CEO, and a figure who may now be the focus of threats the public cannot yet see. Erika Kirk stands at the center of attention in ways few could have imagined. Inheriting the mantle of leadership after her husband's assassination, she is now one of the most visible figures in a movement that spans the nation. That visibility brings influence, and inevitably, risk. It is not about speculation. Security experts agree that public figures in high-profile roles, especially those suddenly thrust into leadership during times of crisis, are natural focal points for attention, including potential threats. The combination of her familial connection to Charlie Kirk, her position as CEO, and her appearances at national events makes Erika an unavoidable symbol, and symbols are often the first targets. Authorities are aware of this reality. Protective measures have been increased, with Secret Service, DHS, and local law enforcement coordinating to monitor the crowd, screen credentials, and secure all points of entry. Yet, as history shows, the greatest danger can sometimes come from the unseen, an overlooked individual, a misread credential, a lapse in timing. For Erika, every step she takes on that stadium floor will be under watchful eyes, not just of supporters and the media, but also of those who might see her as a strategic point to exploit. In her position, leadership and vulnerability coexist, and the balance is delicate. She must navigate her grief, her public responsibilities, and the very real presence of risk, all at once. As we watch Erika Kirk step into this extraordinary role, we invite you, the viewer, to reflect and engage responsibly. The memorial, the security measures, and the unanswered questions all matter, and your awareness can make a difference. Ask yourself, what do you know, and what do you need to learn? How can we as a community demand transparency, support safety, and honor those affected by tragedy without sensationalism? Share your thoughts in the comments, responsibly and respectfully. Which unanswered questions about the memorial or Erika's new leadership are most pressing to you? Use verified channels if you have tips or information for authorities. Subscribe for updates as this story unfolds. We will continue to track developments, examine verified evidence, and provide a careful professional perspective on Erika Kirk's journey, the memorial, and the ongoing investigation. Your engagement helps ensure accountability and encourages informed discussion.